Hello everyone, and welcome to the History Neeks podcast, brought to you by Louis Davies.
James Allen.
Josh Craig.
And today we've got a guest today.
Joseph Nella Rawson.
Yes, and today we are doing our podcast is on the most historically inaccurate film. We've got James to start us off today.
Yes, I like movies. I watch a lot of movies. I brought 5 pages of notes for this one. I've been hyped to do this one ever since we started this podcast, so that's just putting it out there that I watch a lot of movies, and we all do that as well.
I've got a couple words on the notes, so you're the key one.
Yeah, this guy's brought his pen and his notepad. He's ready for this.
I'm very ready.
Good. I don't know why I'm shouting. Okay, the mic can pick me up. Anyway, so I'm gonna start this off. I'm gonna start off nice and hard. 300. Okay, everyone probably knows this movie. Everyone's probably heard of the shirtless Spartans that went off to fight the Persians. Except they weren't shirtless, they were wearing armour and their capes weren't that ridiculously long. And it's a Zack Snyder film. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave that one out there. If you know Zack Snyder like I do, you know he's the kind of director who he does shit because it's cool. Okay? He won't do it because it's historically accurate. Like Ted Quid says, I've got more notes on the Battle of the 300 here than Zack Snyder actually took on the actual event.
Yeah,
he just read the comic book, which, yeah, it was based...
Well, it is based on a comic book. It's not actually based on the... It's more based on the...
Slightly forgivable, but still.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, like...
You don't need a comic book to make a battle with the Spartans cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember watching the film. I feel like they get some of the stuff about this kind of Spartan way of life kind of correct, about how they would get 10-year-olds would have to go off on their own and live out in the wilderness, and how they would have to kill a slave to in Sparta to finish their training. I feel like that kind of gives a bit of authenticity, but
Yeah.
It's style over substance for 300s.
That's just Zack Snyder in general, okay? But even still, I'm calling out Zack Snyder a lot in this already. But anyway, but also I'd like to just talk about how the film sort of frames the actual Battle of the 300, because actually think about it, the Spartans had slavery, whilst the Persians actually had outlawed slavery. So we put it in that sort of context, like, which side is actually better?
The Persians are the good guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to exactly say the Persians were the better side, but what I'm saying is that this was a much more morally grey conflict than the movie portrays it as.
Yeah. Well, I think it is. Well, it's the underdog story. You just automatically root for the underdog. It's 300 against how many was it? Like 10,000.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, and it is a spectacle to watch, to be fair. I mean, you watch it for the action, you don't really watch it for the...
It's cool, okay? Just enjoy it like that. Don't think about the historical implications.
More sex scenes in history.
And I think you can give this one more of a benefit of the doubt, because I don't think it's trying to be historically accurate. It's just... Because I think...
It's an action film at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's also... I think it's generally exaggerated how few Spartans there were. There would be more like
300.
There would have been more like a couple of thousand there as opposed to 300. I mean, they would have been vastly outnumbered, but that kind of thing is often exaggerated in history to make it look more like an underdog story. But the actual battle is a true battle where the Persians had to go through the valley, and they were stopped by they were halted by the Spartans until there was a Spartan, the crippled guy.
Yeah, to reveal the part. Yeah. Overall, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a fun film.
Fun but not history.
No. But for me, I think the film that I'm going to put forward is Braveheart, and it's obviously by Mel Gibson, who is not known for his historical accurate films.
No.
He did...
Sorry, am I guessing you will?
Yes.
Have you started?
Yes.
Sorry.
Special guest star, Louis' mum. Enjoy.
So I do Braveheart, and it's clear with Mel Gibson that he hates a few types of people. One is English/British people, as seen with the Patriots and Braveheart, and also Jewish people with. his Jesus film. But
The cries.
yeah.
I just remember, one of my Scottish friends, when asked about Braveheart, he said, "I don't need an Australian racist to tell me the English are shite."
Well, I mean, it does follow that narrative of the English being kind of the evil, and the Scottish being the plucky underdogs. I mean, obviously the English were the invaders, fair enough, but in reality, actually, the Scottish attacked England first.
And also, you might know that one law in the film where it's just like, oh, the Lord of the Land must sleep with
Prima Nocta.
Yeah, that didn't exist.
That wasn't.
That was
actually
bull.
a thing. And also, it's kind of how it portrays William Wallace, because it portrays him as like some humble farmer, even though he would have been he was a nobleman.
Well, I think I see like more lower nobility, but yeah,
he wasn't a farmer.
Still nobility.
Yeah. And also he has a kind of relationship with Princess Isabella, who's even
child.
though in reality she was like 9 years old. So unless he was like a time travel paedophile, then I don't think
he also shits fire at his ass and shoots lightning from his eyes.
Yeah, and actually getting onto the battle itself, there are so many inaccuracies there. For one, like kilts. Scottish people back then kilts didn't become a thing until the 17th century. Two, they wouldn't have been wearing blue paint. That was the thing the Picts did, and that's a pagan thing. And Scotland was deeply Catholic back then, so they wouldn't want to be associated with their pagan ancestry. No. And also the battle in the film is called the Battle of Stirling, but in reality it was called the Battle of Stirling Bridge. And the clue in the word is that it took place on a bridge. Where Scotland actually, the Scottish actually, there was actually some battle strategy to this, whereas in the film it's just two armies just flying at each other, and Scotland won just from the love of freedom.
I just love this. There was this one story about a local going up to Mel Gibson and being like, "Oh, so what are you doing?" "Oh, we're doing the Battle of Stirling Bridge." It's like, where's the bridge? Well, it got in the way. That's what the English found out.
Yeah, and also the funny thing is that with the Scottish fighters, literally none of them were wearing armour or have good weapons. And they would have been heavily outnumbered.
If you are not wearing armour in a medieval battle, you were basically just signing your own execution.
Yes.
The power of freedom, George, and patriotism for your country, which that kind of thinking wasn't really around at that time.
And
to be honest.
one of the main things is that it just gets the dates wrong. It says it's in 1280, but the kind of the thing that triggered the kind of conflict between England and Scotland didn't occur until Alexander the Third's. Was it Alexander the Third? Was it? Yes, Alexander the Third died in 1286, and the actual and then obviously, long story short, Scotland. No, so Edward the First was asked to mediate who would become the next monarch, but he kind of exploited it, and then one thing led to another, and he invaded Scotland, and that is. And it is implied in the film that the English had been around in Scotland for about 20 years, whereas William Wallace started his rebellion about only a couple of years into the English occupation. So, as Mel Gibson film goes, it's kind of standard.
I think the rename to the time-travelling paedophile was probably...
I was a bit more modern this one. Looking at the Iraq War, I was doing Hurt Locker. 2 words to sum up the film. Well, 3 words. A very bad portrayal. I can't count. It's about, for those who haven't watched it, American bomb diffuser squad in Iraq, and basically it portrays the entire American army as a bunch of adrenaline junkies, and nothing more than that, really.
Because this is America! Yeah!
The main character literally just does it for kicks. Not sure how I feel about that.
Diffusing bombs.
It's like Team America World Police.
And and they show quite a lot of negligence when defusing bombs of the people around them. In many scenes, they endanger not only other soldiers unnecessarily, but also civilians, which they don't ever really evacuate. When literally defusing a bomb packed
in a densely
populated
area.
This will totally work out alright.
And generally portrays the American soldiers very badly. Yeah, we're about to bash them next, but they don't deserve that.
Well, yeah, I think it's with most historically inaccurate films, the Americans are portrayed. Well, I mean, it's often made by Americans to make America look good, but this is a rare
case.
Exactly. They almost look very bad. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're just out here because we think it's cool being part of the army. And there are no moral duties or anything. Yeah, it's just cool.
That just sounds like the plot line to a Call of Duty game. It's like, why are you here? Because I want to be part of the army.
And also, something else I noticed about the film in general was just the lack of any form of overwatch or any form of actual security around bomb defusal squads. Like in one scene, all the buildings, they become encircled on the buildings around them of what seems to be the enemy standing down looking at them. Makes no sense. There would be no one in those buildings around.
And if the enemy appeared on the rooftop, they would be shot.
The film makes not much sense. Doesn't follow any army protocols.
Yes.
And generally seems to make the army look like they're unnecessarily endangering lives and just a bunch of adrenaline junkies, which is not a very fair portrayal of the American military.
Right, so next, changing it up a little bit, the slightly different portrayal of America, a completely false portrayal in fact. This is U571, which was a 2000 film about Operation Primrose, which, as you know, was when HMS Bulldog and Broadway attacked U-boat 110 and took the Enigma machine. Very, very, very important part of the war. In this film, it is, the gist of the film is, a German submarine is boarded by disguised American submariners, who then have to infiltrate their security and steal the Enigma machine.
Yeah.
There are some problems with this already.
There we go.
For a start, the film's called U571. The U-boat in question was U110, not U571.
Like, does it take that much effort to just have the
one
correct
quick
name?
Google search.
I know.
I assume that it was named that way just so they can say, "What? We're not talking about that U-boat. No, we're talking about this one we made up."
Yeah, but another great thing of the thing is that in Operation Primrose, when we took U-boat 110, it was the 9th of May 1941. The Americans didn't get involved until
Yes.
December the 11th, 1941, which is, as you might be able to tell, is a fair bit after. Overall, everything about this film is completely false. It would be fair enough if it was meant to be felt like more of an action, and it was like, oh, this is just meant to be cool.
But the thing is, the director actually said it was meant to be a historical film.
Exactly.
Oh.
Obviously, in reality, what happened is that we had it was the Royal Navy that took U-boat 110 and took the Enigma machine along with some other things and helped team of Bletchley partnered by Alan Turing. Crack the RH.
I mean, the intimidation game.
Yeah, the imitation.
Yeah.
Imitation game. Yeah.
That has some
good
inaccuracies of its own. But
That's
it's far
fine.
more
It's a good film.
film.
Yeah.
Has some inaccuracies. It's not as bad as this. And this was so inaccurate. It actually got attention from Parliament.
Really?
Oh god.
Tony Blair called it an affront to the real sailors and basically spoke out against it, calling it an insult to the Royal Navy.
But he's not wrong.
You know you've reached a point when they're talking about it. Actually, now I'm just going to go on a little tangent. I think we should have just mentioned this about Braveheart, but a lot of historical films do have impact. Okay, with Braveheart, a lot of people will say that the 2014 Scottish independence referendum was as a result of Braveheart. Now, maybe a little far-fetched, but it's not entirely wrong. Braveheart did shape a lot of attitude, especially in Scotland. You'll see people going around saying, "I'm William Wallace," having their faces painted, even though the case is that wasn't actually how it went down.
You don't want a country modelling themselves up to Mel Gibson either.
No. Yeah. Another Mel Gibson film, which I found is called The Patriots, and it kind of depicts the American Revolution. And it goes out of its way to treat the British as pure evil and the Americans as
Tell me of something I haven't seen before.
It is fair to say that the British Empire did some questionable things in its
a bit more than questionable.
Yes, in its attempt to conquer most of the globe. But white Americans were the demographic that probably suffered the least under British rule. It's a bit insulting where there's a famous scene. There's a scene in it where the main villain burns down a church with women, children, and old men in it.
Are we not going to consider that at the time we still even though we were fighting them, we still consider them part of our empire?
I know, but
And still our
the thing is, the closest thing that the closest kind of to the atrocity that actually happened was something the Nazis did. So you're literally comparing. I mean, the worst, the Boston Tea Massacre, for example, only 5 people died, and it's called a massacre, and it's quite famous in America. If this had actually happened, this would be remembered this would be like a national holiday. And
I shoot you 3 in the massacre, I tell you.
And I think it's just quite insulting.
Well, another thing about it is that the way that it was directed and that it was burning down a church as well, and how obviously prevalent at this time and still Christianity is in the United States.
Yes.
It is showing the British as some sort of direct threat to American ideals.
Yeah, and yes, and it just kind of, and it's just that whole thing of American freedom and all that.
Are we not going to question how about half the country actually wanted to stay?
Yeah, it was about a third supported the rebellion. The third was a third opposed it, and the other third just didn't care. And the reason, and then also the main hero, he's based off an actual. It's kind of loosely based on an actual figure.
Loosely.
Yeah, and the figure was a slave owner. And in the film, when the British are at his home, and he's and he's selling to these African American workers on his farm. If you fight for us, you can earn your freedom. And the workers say, "Oh, we choose to work with him," which is
he's such a nice guy.
yeah.
Oh, we love this guy.
Isn't that just the lost cause myth in a nutshell?
This was the North.
That's another inaccuracy in itself. Yeah. Oh, you'll get your freedom after you fight because they didn't get treated.
No. They stayed in chains for a long time.
America, almost no slaves got their freedom after fighting for the revolution, and it just has a very anti-British narrative. It literally, in the final battle, Mel Gibson literally stabs the guy's horse with an American flag.
No, that's the horse is out of it.
It's America! Freedom!
The American Revolution is a very skewed telling of history, even when you actually are talking about it as a piece of history. Often it's portrayed as the plucky farmers against the highly organised empire. Let's ignore
France.
the French version, when the highly organised French navy blockading many ports and the French support and arms given to the revolutionaries. That never happened.
And I think it's just romanticised beyond belief, the American Revolution. And the thing is, people look at things like the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution as a lot more kind of morally grey. Even though I can see why the Russian and the French Revolution happened. I can see that the people there were upset about, actually pissed off. In America, I get taxation without representation, but the reason why they were being paid, forced to pay a lot of tax.
For examples, there's other rebellion things like that. They were born out of extreme desperation. Absolute people in complete poverty.
Yeah,
it's not quite.
Well,
and then
meanwhile, in America, they want us to pay taxes.
And the funny thing is that taxation was to help pay for a war that the British had fought to protect those colonies from the French, and those settlers were the ones who benefited the most from that war. And also another thing is one of the reasons why the revolution took place because the British didn't want to, well, at the time, expand westward because they wanted to because the Native American they agreed that they would have that land. I'm not saying
you have to remember as well is that at the time the land was also owned by France.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't have expanded there anyway, but the Americans wanted to expand westward because more land. And in the film, it actually portrays that the British after the war wanted to expand into Ohio, which is just untrue.
No.
That just did not happen. So, yeah, Mel Gibson he has redeemed himself with Hacksaw Ridge, so which is
that was a good film.
It's a decent film, but just
but
just
you
keep
made
away
a few...
from keep away from films depicting British people, like English.
We don't say that because we are
He
British.
doesn't like. Let's not focus on his depiction.
But anyways,
Let's just focus on them as a bit of fun rather than anything to do with historical accuracy.
Yeah.
Do you think that Mel Gibson has a history degree?
probably not. No.
To be fair, one film that although become on the surface doesn't look very historically accurate, it's actually quite accurate. Is Death of Stalin. I know.
It's also based, like 300, it's based on a comic book. So you'd think it can't be that accurate, but it kind of is actually quite...
It's not bad, is it?
It's a good film.
It's
Liked it.
hilarious.
It's on Netflix at the time of recording. Go watch it.
Yeah,
Russia was really not happy about it either, were they?
No, they banned it from.
They banned it immediately.
But I like it how literally Khrushchev has an American accent.
Yeah, Khrushchev has
as you do.
But like the actual, a lot of the events actually did take place. So, for example, the opening scene with the theatre, that happened off a real event where they Stalin wanted a recording, so they got back just people from the street to just
So
come
they
and
could-
watch. So the embouchure sounded right.
But what I find hilarious about this especially is that you've got films like U571, you've got The Hurt Locker, you've got 300, and the one that gets it the best out of all of them is the comedy.
Like the biggest inaccuracy of this film is that it portrays all the events happening within a long weekend, whilst reality these events took place months apart.
If not over a couple of years.
Yeah. So
But I mean, other things like Stalin would actually keep his inner circle, make them get drunk and watch Western movies, and also it is believed that Khrushchev was only in the inner circle because Stalin thought he was funny.
yeah.
He wasn't, and also Berryer, he wasn't actually the head of the NKVD at the time. He was the former, but he was actually a horrible.
He was
bloke.
a gruesome human being.
He was said to be a Stalin's Himmler because he would literally just rape young
Even
girls.
Stalin was sort of scared of him. He kept his daughter away from him.
And the son in the film is quite accurate because in reality, he was a drunk who failed literally everything Stalin got him to do. And the hockey thing, there's that scene on the ice hockey. There was actually a plane crash where most of the team died. So I mean, it's a funny film, but I think it should be.
It's sad that the comedy gets it most accurate.
Yeah, that's.
But I think
especially one that claimed to be historically accurate.
But you have to give it credit because it does, and I think it does it in a way that you can. Although it was a really awful time in history, Stalin's, Stalin Soviet Union, but fair play to them to go for it. It's a ballsy thing to do, but I love it.
Probably why it got banned in Russia.
Again, but. Anyways, going back a little bit to some of the things we talked about with the Patriot and Lost Cause myth. There is this one film that, on the surface, you wouldn't think it would be historically inaccurate, but when you actually give it a look, it is the most disgusting, one of the more disgusting films I've on this list. It's done by the same director of Gettysburg. You liked Gettysburg, right?
Yeah, that's quite
a good film.
Well,
Same director came along and basically made Lost Cause Myth, the movie. We finally did it, everyone. Hey, everyone. James here for a quick interlude. Now, I noticed whilst I was editing this episode that we never mentioned the name of the film that we're about to talk about. Neither did we mention the name of the director. Do I think the film or the director should be credited with this? No, I really think this is actually a really bad film. I wouldn't really recommend it to you. And you're going to see why. We're going to detail to you why. But in the spirit of being fair, and just because, it's better off that you know what you should avoid. The film is called Gods and Generals, and the director is Ron Maxwell. And, well, you should probably also know that this film has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. But what also scares me is that it has an audience score of 64%. And clearly, I just had a look through a lot of those, and all of these arguments seem that they clearly lack a lot of the required knowledge. They really are having a very biased look at these events, when in reality, a lot of this is not portrayed in a very in the right light. Okay, this film portrays slavery in a very poor manner. Okay, that this film should be taken to task for. But anywho, that's enough from me. We're going to go into a lot more detail about why you shouldn't watch this film. Okay, this isn't even a film like some of the others on this list that you can just take as a cool action film. It's 4 hours and 40 minutes. You don't want to sit through that. Anywho, so, yeah. Enjoy the rest of the episode. But it portrays the Confederacy as this righteous cause, and no, it wasn't about slavery. They liked their slaves. The slaves liked their masters. It tries oh look, what's it say? General Lee's becoming the leader of the Confederate Armed Forces. Triumphant music, trumpets galore. Just behold, look at these plucky rebels chasing away the evil federal government. And it's just no.
Was this a movie or was this a Republican Party advertisement?
No. I mean, he is a pro-Trump supporter, so in theory.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was done quite a while back.
I mean, even in Gettysburg, there's that scene where the English ambassador, British ambassador, is talking to the Confederacy about why they're fighting, and it's just about, it's literally just they just talk about states' rights when, I mean, it just.
Truth be told, it was sort of slavery. Though.
Yeah, it was slavery, and I think the thing with the states' rights came much later on with the kind of in the 1920s with the kind of the civil rights got, because you see a pattern is whenever there is a call for civil rights, Confederacy patriotism goes up because there's always a response, and I think at the time most of it would have just been soldiers, well not soldiers but generals would have been fighting to preserve slavery. So
yeah, honestly, just go watch 12 Years a Slave if you think that this depiction of slavery, they loved their masters, they were all getting on all chummy, and there's one racial slur in this film, and who says it? Why, a unionist, of course. None of the Confederates say it. They'd be, in reality, they'd be spitting the N-word like it was going out of fashion.
Well, there's one very good statistic which kind of disproves the entire movie. If slaves really were treated well, why was it during the war over 500,000 of them fled the Confederacy to go to the Union and Canada?
Yeah. It's
holiday.
Well, we let them have their good old holidays here and there. They just better come back.
That's a vacation.
Don't worry, we'll collect.
Any more films you guys got?
I've got Gladiator.
Yeah, we've probably got time for one more.
Gladiator. It's a respectable film. It's a good film.
Yeah, I like
it. It's a good film to watch. The sad thing is that they put far too much effort into making sure it was historically accurate. And the fact is, it really wasn't. They hired many historians out of Cambridge University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to ensure it was as accurate as possible. And I have too many faults to actually have on this list, so I'm only going to review. One, I'm just going to start with the opening scene. In the opening scene, there is just a standard sort of foot battle.
Yeah.
They're using catapults in Birthday.
Yeah.
Against men. Well, though I believe that, as you told me, I think catapults were used from time to time. This was in a forest.
Yeah.
And ballistae were not used for anything other than siege.
This is true.
So, spring launch weapons like that were just not right. The other thing, apparently Marcus Aurelius banned gladiator battles. I believe this was towards the end of the film. Apparently he banned gladiator fighting. No, he actually decreed that it would continue, and he actually emphasised it more because it was a really poor economical state at the time. He wanted to distract the public.
Yeah,
it's really that simple. He also the film says that Marcus Aurelius wanted to restore the Republic of Rome.
Yeah, look how that happened. You know, it's the reason why it's called the Roman Empire.
What I just find ridiculous is that they actually had Cambridge historians advising on this, and this is the crap they came out with. The fact is that the Emperor didn't want that, the Senate didn't want that, none of them wanted it, and all it was nodding towards 21st century ideals.
Yeah.
That was really it. I have one last thing on the list. It's a bit nitpicky, but I took Latin in school, so it's bothering me. So the Great Gladiatorial Training School, which is called Ludus Magnus Gladiatorum, which is Ludus Magnus was the school itself. In the film, a lot of it is they've got some glaring mistakes in their language. They often use Italian instead of Latin. It's a bit nitpicky.
But at the same time, when you've got a film claiming to be very historically accurate to the point they've hired people from Cambridge, you would
expect something that Google Translate could do better. But Ludus Magnus Gladiatorum, the school, was actually called Ludus Magnus Gladiatores, which is just an amalgamation of Latin and Italian.
I mean, they hired these Cambridge guys just to hang around. They didn't actually ask them to. So, do you want any hits or pointers? Just stand over there.
They did it so we wouldn't look further.
But not the most accurate.
I think that's where we should really be focusing with these films. It's not really like what is film. It's when they're trying to be accurate. That's where it's really quite.
So like 300 is clearly not trying to be historically accurate.
Yeah,
it's definitely.
The fact Death of Stalin was a comedy and it is relatively
accurate.
But Gladiator, the fact is that the director himself said, we're trying to make this as close to relevant as possible. We've got all of these advisors from Cambridge. This is the crap.
Let's not use them.
Anyway, guys, I think that brings us to an end.
I think just a final note: if you want to make a film based on history, you can stick to the facts and still get a very good film. You don't need to go for the bull.
Well, don't be Mel Gibson. There were a few films that we can go through, but I think we're happy with the films that we chose. And thank you for watching and listening.
All right, bye.